It is Monday, August 12th, and you got Wake Up on. Damon Bruce, Larry Krueger, welcome. It's great to see you. Larry's alarm clock, state-of-the-art workmanship this morning, Larry. It got you out of bed. Good to see you, pal.
Yeah, sometimes I get too ambitious. The other night was one of those nights. I did a morning show. I did videos leading into the game. I did the game. I did the post-game show. I did the KMBR post-game show. I did my own post-game show. Then I decided, you know what? I'm going to have a little dinner. Then I'm going to watch the game again. And then I got so deep into it that I forgot to set my alarm. And I would say I overslept my alarm, but look, I didn't even set the damn alarm.
So the plan is we will be live every day after the 49ers play. We're going to go live Sunday morning. But again, Larry making preseason mistakes. Good. Get it out there in the preseason,
right.
Larry. Now's the time to throw your training camp interceptions. Now's the time to oversleep that alarm. But
just look at it this way. Look at it this way. Damon and Larry had a joint practice, and it had to be canceled.
Which is where we are starting this morning. I think Mike Silver gets credit for dubbing this bad vibe summer. And bad vibe summer continue to roll on for the 49ers based on the fact that they have said they don't have enough healthy bodies to make a joint practice in Southern California really work out for them, which is disappointing on a number of levels. Mainly just a healthy team standpoint. It's a little bit early in the year to be this banged up, you would think, but here we are. And there's also the fact that Kyle is very much on record over the past couple of preseasons saying how much more he values these joint team practices above and beyond the preseason games that they get to play, because they can really rep things out, really work on what they want to work on. And it just feels like this is a 2 steps back, maybe no steps forward type of a week for the 49ers.
Well, I mean, they just had so many injuries, even though they're small injuries, and they just don't want to. I mean, I think what they're saying without saying it is that, joint practices are far more physical than practice normally if you want to just do it as painlessly as possible. You can't do that when you're practicing with another team. With another team, you're putting on the pads. With another team, you're swapping paint, you're banging heads, you're fighting. There's brawls, so it's just a lot more involved. And I just think that the 49ers just said, you know what? Because I was at their last practice, and they had like 23 guys either getting a veterans rest day, Damon, or a little ding, or holding out, or holding in, or you know what I mean? They had so many different categories: PUP, NFI. They just add it all up, and what it adds to is about 20 to 25 guys who aren't ready to go. And for that reason, they said, you know what, Sean Payton or Dennis Allen, let's not do it. And maybe the Saints had some of their own injuries that they were trying to minimize contact, but they'll still play the preseason game. They just won't get together in Orange County beforehand. All I'll say now, I don't get involved in a lot of this stuff, and I keep it on the field. That's kind of who I am. But Kev and I bought a Airbnb to go down there, and lots of people booked hotel rooms and booked flights. And it would have been cool on the Niners' part if they could have said something about this, I don't know, like 10 days ago. Luckily, the woman that we Airbnb'd from is so gracious that she's like, hey, maybe next time you guys come down here, you'll stay here. And she let us out 100% of our Airbnb agreement.
That's good.
So, otherwise we were on the hook for 300 bones being lost. And I'm sure there's some media people that probably have flights that they can't cancel, or hotels they can't switch. So I kind of think it's bad form, to be honest, to make this late of a switch.
Yeah, I saw Tim Kawakami talk about non-referable rooms and how many other stretched media budgets are taking it in the shorts on this one. And I guess that's the price of poker, man. Not all athletic events. They said it's right on the back of your ticket, right? everyone might not play tonight. This game might not happen. And I guess
I have the greatest example of that, Damon. I went to a wedding. My wife's sister got married in Denver. The Giants happened to be playing the Rockies. Everybody wanted to go. I asked the guy, the Giants ticket broker, Russ Stanley, Russ, I want to buy some tickets to the Giants Rockies in Denver. Krugo, get you the best seats in the house. When he said that, I kind of went, I don't know if I want the best seats in the house.
It just got expensive. I don't know.
It just got really expensive. But I'm like, you know what, Russ? Go for it. Get the best seats in the house.
It's a wedding.
He gets us first row behind the Giants dugout. We're not in the park for 9 seconds, and Gene Machi rolls a ball over the dugout to Christopher, who was like 5 at the time. And so now I'm just loving life. Well, we watched 2 innings. Then the skies opened. Then there was a 2.5-hour rain delay. And then they announced that they were going to suspend the game and pick it up in September when the Giants returned. And I was out like $9 for 2.5 innings of Giants Rockies and a lot of rain.
You got a baseball. That's good.
I got a baseball for $900 for 2 innings of Giants Rockies.
That's rough. It really is.
And then when the game was played in September, Damon, I felt obligated to sit there and watch every second of it. I'm like, I've got to watch this. I'm invested.
You didn't fly back out there for it, did you?
No.
Okay.
Could you imagine? Right. Honey, I incurred even more debt on those Giants tickets.
Really ran up the budget on this one.
Yeah.
To bring it back to the 49ers, it's a shame. And, when I first read the Mike Silver Bad Vibe Summer column, I thought, I don't know. Is it really bad vibes, or is it just this Aiyuk thing is just a headache? But no, I think it really is starting to turn into this isn't going that smoothly. And the whole point of this
No, it is not.
The whole point of this offseason was it was gonna go smoothly. That was the priority. That was the goal. That was the opportunity that presented itself to the 49ers. And look, they got a rough regular season coming up, so a smooth preseason sounded like a really nice, welcome sort of change of pace. But it hasn't happened. It has not happened. And I tell you, Larry, I want to operate on the sunny side of the street when it comes to this team, because they've been really good. They've been really successful. I'm not a homer. I'm not a homer. I'm not. I think they're really good. I would like to see them accomplish what I think that they can accomplish. But I'm getting vibes and omens to where I'm thinking about starting to bang unders on this team, Larry. I really am. I'm thinking about going to BetUS and banging some team total unders, some player prop unders, and it just feels like right now, if you had to ask me, like, what playoff team from last year is sort of going in the opposite direction of returning to the playoffs this year, it feels a little bit like the Niners. Now, maybe that's just overreaction and being caught in the silo of all the, the negativity that's out there right now, but it ain't good. It's not the start they wanted. It wasn't the start that they were promised. And it feels like there is a way to fix this with money in some instances, and they're not spending that money to fix it. So it's, the 49ers are wading out into waters I'd rather them not be swimming in, but it looks like this is where they're going swimming. So have at it.
Anything they do here is going to set a precedent, and they know it. And that's part of this. So if they bow to, Brandon Aiyuk has a contract. He has a contract. Let's not pretend that he doesn't have a contract. He has a contract. It's for $14.1 million. Under the CBA rules, he is due to play under the 5th-year option. The teams in the first round get a 5th-year option if they so choose to exercise it. The Niners so chose to exercise it. And thus, they have Brandon Aiyuk at $14.1 million. That is his agreed to CBA contract. Only out of the kindness of their heart, do they need to do anything to change his situation in any way, shape, or form. So they don't owe him anything. So there's people, and I went on Twitter and I went on YouTube and I did a video last night, and I basically said the Niners' best and only viable plan for Aiyuk at this point here on August the 12th It's just completely ignore him. Absolutely ignore him. Let him hold out. Let him. He wants to walk up to you in the meeting and hug you. Great. He wants to hug you on the practice field. Awesome. Let him do it. Let him hold out as long as he wants. Let him sit there and be miserable. And he's eventually going to come back. And he's going to have cost his family millions of dollars. And he's going to, at that point, realize that there is no there as far as leverage. The Niners have it all in this situation. And just whatever the Niners do, they should not trade him to any team for 75 cents on the dollar. Nobody does that. It's like, why should they not do it? Because nobody does that. You don't sell, Damon, you bought a house in San Francisco. That house is a beautiful house. It's probably worth $1.5 million. You and Jillian are not going to sell it tomorrow for $750,000 because you don't want to haggle. You're not going to sell it for $800,000 tomorrow because you know what? It's just a pain in the ass. No. If you had $1 million sports car, you're not selling it for $20,000 because you don't enjoy the experience of the transaction of ownership. No. Right? I mean, come on. And you're not going to sell Brandon Aiyuk either for 75 cents on the dollar. That's all I'm saying. So let him sit, let him pout. Eventually he'll show up. Eventually he'll play. There could this is football. I mean, I just watched 7 games this weekend. There's a very good chance, Damon, that some NFL team of note loses a top tier wide receiver in the months of August, September, or October. And the Niners might be able to trade him at that point, but do not hand him to the Pittsburgh Steelers for 75 cents on the dollar or 50 cents on the dollar in the name of let's just move on. No. So that's how I feel.
Right. Brandon Aiyuk, like my home, is an asset and you need to protect your asset. Okay.
Right.
All of the brass tacks business in my brain agrees with everything you just said. You are right. You don't want to do this deal cannot be done in a vacuum. There is a little precedent, but let me just say it's not then legal precedent, and you do not have to extend the courtesies to Brandon Aiyuk to the next guy in line when that happens. So it isn't a, correlation, causation, whatever you want to say. I don't think that there's that to really worry about. I agree with everything you say. However, the overriding goal of all of this, like at the end of the day, when we get down to brass tacks and say, what would you say it is you do here? The 49ers have but one goal, and that is to win a Super Bowl. And I don't care who needs to be run over in the middle of a road by a bus for that to happen. And that's the way that they should conduct this business. And I think they need to swallow their ego. I don't think that they need to worry about this in terms of precedent setting. If I'm the 49ers, I watched that game against Tennessee, and I saw a couple of drops that made me say, you know what? Give the fucker what he wants. Just get him in here. It's not great. It's not the way we wanted to do it, but we need him as much as he needs us. And I just think, what is the number 29? Is that what I saw out of Pittsburgh? The Steelers are willing to go to 29. And if the 49ers would go to 29, look, if Brandon Aiyuk really is who you think he is, then him making $29 million a year over the next 3, 4, 5 years might sound a lot today. It's going to be market rate tomorrow. Like, to me, bad vibe summer can be fixed with money thrown in 2 directions. Again, I'm not worried about Trent Williams. I don't think anybody's worried about Trent Williams. I think the 49ers are happy that Trent isn't out there right now. He doesn't want to be there. He doesn't really need to be there. He needs about 10 days to warm up. I bet Trent Williams is getting reps in the final preseason game of the year to get ready to go. I'm not worried about that. I don't think anyone is. I think both sides are almost comfortable with that holdout right now, because
I don't know about that. There's been so little said about it. I don't know. I really have no idea where Trent's head is. I have no idea where the Niners mindset is on this. The one thing we do know is that Trent goes, as proven in the past, he will hold out. He will hold out. It's not like, well, he won't do it. No, he's done it.
He's done it, but he's done it in an objectively bad for your career situation. The Niners are not bad for Trent Williams' career.
And we don't know how bad he wants to play. That's all I'm saying. It's like, he may want to play. I mean, a couple years ago, he was like, I may want to give it up. Last year at the end of the Super Bowl, he told Eric Branch, I'm absolutely coming back. So we have that indication that he wanted to play at least as recently as last February. I kind of agree with you that, one, nobody's really worried about him missing time. Though I did ask Chris Forster, how much time do you think he absolutely needs? And he really danced around it, gave me a 3.5-minute word salad and didn't answer the question. But it was I get the sense that he probably, in an ideal world, they'd like to have 7 to 10 days to get him ready, which means, he's got maybe a week or two before he's got to get in there. So, but we don't know his situation. We think he's going to come back. That one in some ways is a bigger deal because there is no backup. Though I will say this, one of the guys that I thought really looked good in this game this weekend was Chris Hubbard, who actually was forced in at left tackle because Jalen Moore
got sick, couldn't even go, and I thought he looked pretty darn good. He really did.
Hubbard
about Pony, and we'll talk about that game.
Hubbard looked okay. He's not Trent Williams, but he looked okay.
Larry, there were enough drops in that game for me. There were enough drops in that game for Kyle Shanahan, the head coach, to walk over to Kyle Shanahan, the general manager, and say, just get my fucking player in here, right?
Yeah, but you can't do that because then next year, the guy on the 5th-year option also, then you're basically setting a precedent that you can. I mean, they're all okay. They already set a precedent last year with Nick Bosa that they're not going to live up to this year with Brandon Aiyuk, and that is they wiped away all of Bosa's fines. And they're not planning, at least they haven't said they're planning, and they've had opportunities to say they're planning to do it. They haven't said they're planning to do that with Aiyuk. So there's already people going, well, this is not quite the same as last year. And it's not. The reality is they have different rules for different guys, different standards for different players, and it's all predicated on how good you are and how easily you are to replace. That's the equation. If you can be replaced easily, that's not good. If you can't be replaced at all, then you've got ultimate leverage.
It's the old Animal Farm, man. Everybody's equal, but some are more equal than others. That's kind of what it is in the hierarchy of who you keep, how you negotiate, who you're willing to sit down and do deals with ahead of schedule, behind schedule, yada, yada, yada. Getting back to bad vibe summer.
It's like Jimmy Johnson used to say, I treat everybody differently.
Right. Yeah. You want to go ahead and get rid of bad vibe summer, man? Brandon Aiyuk walks into that locker room. Trent Williams walks into that locker room. Mike Silver won't write the sentence bad vibe summer again. It won't happen. It would change the vibe of this summer. It would change the vibe of the preseason. It would add 2 players back into the mix that need to, I believe, be in the mix to go and win a Super Bowl. And that's all I want to hear about. There's not a single other element of this franchise that is even remotely interesting. I'm not interested in precedent. I'm not interested in 2025, 26, 27, 28. I'm not. 2024 is probably the last chance you're going to get, certainly with this group, to win a Super Bowl as is. So you better get as is and go fight a schedule that is not going to be your friend, that will not give you the rest. If you're already having injury problems before we even started playing football, that is an ominous sign that things are not really good right now. Congratulations. The guy that might have been drafted to be Brandon Aiyuk's replacement has not even experienced a modicum of NFL contact, and he's hurt. That's not good.
That was my main concern about Cowing and Pearsall on draft day is just durability.
Was Cowing flown to Tennessee, by the way? Was he in that game? Did he? Good
No,
Lord.
He wasn't there.
All right.
But here, okay, but then next year, you're going to have more guys holding out and more guys holding out.
Larry,
more guys holding out. You're setting the precedent. You're willingly and openly voluntarily setting this precedent, and you're going to have to deal with that a year from now, and it's going to be worse a year from now. My whole thing is,
Larry, they win the Super Bowl, everyone's going to turn around and ask for more anyway.
Did you see the latest on Aiyuk? Because it seems like you're unaware of the latest. The latest is that he told the Niners, I either want what the Steelers are offering. You have to match that,
or trade me,
or trade me there.
Right?
It's like the Steelers want to pay me X, and so you now have to trade me to team X. And obviously, with only one bidder, you're sawing off the Niners at the kneecap, because how are they supposed to get a good trade or a fair trade, what they view as a fair trade, if there's no other bidding? If there's only one team bidding, and you're basically saying, I want to play at their price. I mean, this is not the way the NFL works. You know, in baseball, there's arbitration, and it's something similar to this, where I have to pay my employees based on how stupid the dumbest move from the dumbest owner in baseball. They are all tied together because of arbitration. Just because the Steelers are willing to pay Brandon Aiyuk, I don't know, $32 million, doesn't mean that the 49ers have to pay him $32 million.
Okay, so what is the price? What is the price? Because if the deal, like if the price that the Steelers have in front of Brandon Aiyuk is $29 million, the 49ers should sprint to get that contract done and just be like, okay, great, you're in for $29 million a year. It's not the 30 that we didn't want to pay you, 29. We're done. You said that you would agree to this. You're agreed to it.
I don't know what he's going to agree to, because he said hometown discount, right? He said no hometown discount for the Niners, but then he did say that he would take less to be a Steeler. There's that too. I mean, this whole thing has gotten so ridiculous. And the bottom line on this, and there always is a bottom line. The bottom line is, what happens if the Niners do nothing? He can't go to Pittsburgh, and he's not going to hold out the year. So do nothing. Do nothing.
Right.
Stop being a distraction. You have other receivers, and the Niners have more than enough weapons to go forward without Brandon Aiyuk. The Niners have so many weapons, it's ridiculous. They don't have an Aiyuk, and they're going to miss him, but they have a ton of offensive weapons. And if they let him sit, he's going to come back. And guess what? If he comes back, he plays in the fifth-year option, even though he says he won't. He obviously will, because otherwise it's zero. And then
he doesn't accrue the
at the end of the year, you can franchise tag him, and then you can trade him next March. You can try this whole thing again before the draft next year. You don't have to satisfy Pittsburgh or him. That's my point.
No. You talk about precedent. To me, the precedent of getting a deal done with Brandon Aiyuk ahead of schedule is not that big a deal. There is an awful lot of precedent, and I think that this is what Brandon Aiyuk was counting on, that really good players get a little cherry on top instead of having to rock that fifth-year option. So I think he was expecting that precedent to maybe be broken off to him. The precedent that
is he better than Chase, though? Chase isn't getting that.
Here's the thing: the precedent that cannot be broken off is the trade. That's where that's where you look at the player and you say, you're dying on the vine before we're giving you that. That's the precedent that I think the 49ers need to avoid.
Say that again.
Trading the player to the team he demands.
Trading the player. I got you.
That's the precedent to stay away from establishing.
So you're saying sign him, don't trade him, sign him. I'm saying ignore him and let him come back when he's tired of sitting at home. He'll come back because he has no other place to go.
I'm saying there's not a single element of this that I give a shit about other than winning a Super Bowl. It's easier to win a Super Bowl with him than without him. This is a binary choice. It's yes or no. I think it's easier to win a Super Bowl with him than without him, and that's all you're trying to do. That's all
I'm saying is this. When Brandon Aiyuk came out, whether it was yesterday or the day before, and said, pay me what the Steelers offered me or trade me to the Steelers, that can be interpreted as only one thing: extreme hardball.
Oh, yeah.
And if he wants to play extreme hardball, Prague ought to deal him some extreme hardball. I mean, seriously, be careful what you wish for. You want to play hardball when you have no leverage, then Prague ought to throw you a full fastball of hardball. Here it is, baby. You know what? We're taking our 26 offer off the table. It's fifth year or nothing. It's fifth year or sit.
This is what I suggested they do 2 months ago. And you were like, no, you can't treat players like that. It sends the bad message through the locker room, and that's bad. And future
a lot has happened since then.
Right.
A lot has happened since then.
If they had gone here's the thing. If you're going
He's playing hardball.
If you're swinging brass knuckles, you don't wait to the end of the fight to pull him out. You start the fight with brass knuckles. So I think it's a little bit too late for the Niners to drop the brass knuckles.
I don't have a lot of brass knuckles fighting experience to lean on there, so I can't tell you what I would do with the brass knuckles and when's the appropriate time to issue the brass knuckles.
The brass knuckles.
I'll take your word for it on that one.
It's really got to hurt.
But my point is just that if you, at this point, you only have losing decisions. Trading him to a team that's offering you what you don't want, not a good deal. So that's a bad precedent to set. I mean, and you definitely don't want to set. I mean, you're going to make if John Lynch wants to dial up right now, the fans love John Lynch. Right now, the fans love Kyle Shanahan. Have they won the Super Bowl? No. But have they gone to the Super Bowl? Yes, twice. And have they gone to the NFC title game? Yes, a ton, more than almost anybody. So they love those guys right now. If they trade Brandon Aiyuk for Dan Moore, James Daniels, and a third-round pick, man, Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch will get raked by media, by fans, and it will be merciless. Because you got to remember this. This is literally you're parting ways with Mickey Mouse on the opening of Disneyland. In your biggest year, you got 115,000 people in line coming to Disneyland, and you're firing Mickey Mouse. No, bad move. You can't do it. You can't trade Mickey Mouse to Great America, which would be kind of interesting, an interesting trade. I will say this. I watched
Mickey Mouse is absolutely an expendable Disney character at this point. I really would. You got
the Disney princesses. They go to Fullerton. They're very attractive. They're lined up right behind Toontown. You know what? Don't stand in line too long. There's a line there, but if you get a fast pass, you can go around the side. That's what I did. They're from Fullerton. Very nice girl. She's a communications major. I told her I was Ralph. She said, I don't listen to sports radio.
Corn dogs outside of the Goofy roller coaster, one of the best bites in the entire ballpark. You should go ahead and get excuse me.
Craig, if I said it once, I said it 1,000 times. You always do Disneyland from the back to the front. You don't do it from the front to the back. You come in, you get on the tram, you go to the back of the park, and you work your way back.
I mean, Ralph had the whole thing down.
But the whole point is you're there just to ride Space Mountain.
Oh, which is the worst ride of all time.
And no. It's a roller coaster in the dark. It's a little.
It's a roller. I mean, think about that for a second, everybody. A roller coaster in the dark, so you can't ever kind of gear up for you're gonna. You know, it's basically like Whiplash. It should be called Whiplash because you don't know if you're going to be hurled to the left or to the right. And
that's where the fun is, Larry. You don't know what's coming around next. You don't
go after lunch.
You don't even know where the corner is. You don't even know where it is. I love Space Mountain. I got nothing bad to say about Space Mountain. The 49ers version of Space Mountain is winning the Super Bowl, and that's all there is to it. And I don't care how you get there. I really don't. I don't care if you bring Mickey. I don't care if you drown Mickey in the Finding Nemo ride. I don't care. Just get me to Space Mountain. If I'm the 49ers, if I'm the 49ers, the Super Bowl is Space Mountain. And how about this?
Look at this guy, Mike Baker. I went on Space Mountain with the lights on once.
Crazy.
Are you kidding me?
I don't know they offered that as an option. Can you turn the lights on in here?
Honey, can we go on Space Mountain tonight with the lights on? Once? No, I guess it was not a funny joke. All right.
Was that like sex? Is it a sex with the lights on joke?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, we're married. We don't do that anymore.
What can I say? I watched last night because I have NFL Plus, and you can watch condensed versions of all these games, right? So I took 28 minutes.
Damon Bruce Plus, Larry. Do you have Damon Bruce Plus? You have NFL Plus?
Yes, I do have Damon Bruce Plus.
Thank you.
But I also have the NFL Plus, and I would recommend it. Why? Because, okay, so you go to the game, you watch the game, you have a great time. You want to see it one more time, but you don't have 3-4 hours to invest in it. No sweat. NFL Plus, they cut out everything. You can watch an entire Niner game in like 24 minutes. It's awesome. So last night I decided to watch the Steelers and the Texans preseason game to just take, we've been talking about trading Aiyuk to the Steelers. Let's put some eyeballs on the Steelers.
Sure, what Steeler might you want?
Yeah, what Steeler might you want? So they were playing the Texans. And by the way, a couple of quick observations.
Texans.
The Texans are my pick to go to the Super Bowl.
Tank Dell. That guy's
Tank Dell is going to have a huge year.
Yeah.
They have Danielle Hunter. They've added Danielle Hunter. And they have a receiver named Josh Cephas. In addition to Tank Dell, in addition to Nico Collins, in addition to all their other guys, Diggs. They've got Diggs. They've got Stephon Diggs. Houston looks awesome. Awesome. They're coming. But just watching Pittsburgh, Justin Fields was god-awful. Oh, my God, Justin Fields was bad. I mean, he made a business decision not to fall on the fumble that Cam Newton would have signed off on. If you want James Daniels, that's fine. But he did wear a halo padded kazoo helmet over his helmet in the game.
I did see that. Jonathan
Taylor.
Taylor.
A couple guys did
Jonathan
it.
Taylor also wore the Guardian cap.
The Guardian cap. That's what it's called. Yeah. Yep. I call it a halo pad. But yeah, so James Daniels, who's been rumored to be coming back for Aiyuk, wore the Guardian cap. But as far as just watching them, a couple guys did really stand out. The Steelers have an inside linebacker rookie named Peyton Wilson from North Carolina State, who's just absolutely incredible. I mean, this guy's flying around everywhere. He was amazing. They got a running back named Jonathan Ward, who's incredibly fast. They've got a receiver named Dez Fitzpatrick, who I think might be a decent replacement level receiver if you're just looking for a throw in as part of a bigger trade like the Niners might. I would take Dez Fitzpatrick and, whatever the Steeler package is, that's real. But beyond that, they also have Van Jefferson. But Dez Fitzpatrick's interesting. I mean, he's 6'2", he's 210. He's a 4'4", 640 guy. He's got big hands, long arms. I mean, Dez Fitzpatrick's interesting. I'm not saying he's Aiyuk, but I would take him as a throw-in.
Maybe they screw up the trade, and the John Lynch writes the name Minka in there, and they think it's the other Fitzpatrick, and boom.
We thought we were trading Dez Fitzpatrick, and John Lynch got us to give him Minka Fitzpatrick. There's also DeMarvin Leal, who's a long-arm defensive lineman who the Niners could have some interest in. I mean, George Pickens was in this game, but obviously, I don't think he's going to be coming to the 49ers.
No, he's not tradable.
I just, once again, and it's hilarious, all these Steeler fans. So I put out this video on YouTube last night, and it got 25,000 views and like 750 comments, and most of them are from Steeler fans. The Niner fans are like, hell yeah, Krug, let this guy sit. I'm tired of this diva. I'm tired of this holdout. I'm tired of the Niners kowtowing to every part of it. I'm tired of the discussion. Just let him sit. He'll come back.
Sean Turner in the chat. I wrote Minka in an envelope.
Damon, Minka Fitzpatrick in an envelope. And I looked at myself and I said, Trent, you're a jackass. Anyway. But yes, the Steelers do have some decent players. They do have some decent players. But what pisses me off is their fans. And of course, their fans are like, you can't hold this guy hostage. It's like he's got a contract. What do you mean holding him hostage?
He's not hostage.
He's got a contract that he doesn't want to show up and play on. Then he's leaning on the Niners out of the goodness of their heart to have such a warm feeling about said player that they're going to take their fifth-year option in the midst of a very punitive limiting salary cap. And they just want the Niners to voluntarily say, you know what, we can pay him 14.1, but let's pay him 30. Let's double that in the midst of, on the verge of paying Brock Purdy and this super loaded roster. Let's just break Brandon off, 2 times instead of once. So I don't know. I'd love this thing to end. I'm with you, Damon. I'd rather see him. I'll say this: trading Brandon Aiyuk. If the Niners do anything that doesn't help them win the Super Bowl, shame on them.
Yeah, and
they've gone so far on this pursuit of a Super Bowl. If they move off of Brandon Aiyuk for comfort, shame on them. If they move off of Brandon Aiyuk in the midst of their Super Bowl year for backup offensive linemen, shame on them. They don't have to do anything. Their best chances, I think their odds in Vegas of winning the Super Bowl will go down the day they move Brandon Aiyuk in a trade. So don't do it. Why would you make a trade like that? Don't make that trade. That's what I would. And if the Steelers really badly want him, they haven't won a playoff game in 5 years. If they really badly want him, let them make a real offer. But don't sit here and be like, you know what? I want what the Steelers offered me, or I want you to trade me to the Steelers. You're not a free agent, and that's not the way this works. And there are other situations where the Niners would have the right to match, but that's not this situation. So I hope they let him sit.
Mark Powell of Fansided shared reports suggest the 49ers might be willing to take a second-round pick along with a third, plus an established veteran player. Pittsburgh reportedly offered right guard James Daniels at one point, but though it's unclear the 49ers wanted more. Yeah, the 49ers are going to want more than a guard you're looking to move on from that you drafted players to replace. Right. And a second and third. Again, if a second and third was going to get a deal done for Aiyuk, that would have happened months ago. So that's not going to happen. And you could say the Steelers are smart, sort of just playing the waiting game on this too. There really is a little bit of a game of chicken now between these two teams and who might blink first to acquiesce to the players, kind of empty demand.
Well, I'll go further in this. I mean, this is if the 49ers, if the biggest part of this return are 2025 draft picks, bad deal.
You can't do it. We talked about that.
Bad deal.
Right after the draft, that the time to trade Brandon Aiyuk was before the draft that just happened, not after. You cannot walk into that locker room and say, hey, everybody, future looks bright. Brandon Aiyuk's gone, but we got a lot of picks coming up in the future. It's not about the future. It really isn't. It's about 2024. It's the only year that they can do anything in. There could be a comet that hits the planet and 2025 doesn't get here, so you don't have to worry about any salary cap that year. This is it. The 49ers are at the event horizon of this team's. So I'm in it. Without Brandon Aiyuk, they're 2 injuries away from missing the playoffs.
JD 2122 says, what's a real offer, Larry? Decide if he's a good player, like you said in your rant, or is he a great player like you want the Steelers to pay for? My point in saying he's a good player is he's not. This is the organization that had Jerry Rice and Terrell Owens. He's good. He ain't them. That was my point. He's a good player. He's not a Hall of Fame player. This is not a once in a lifetime player. It's a good player, even a very good player.
Yeah.
As far as what I want the Steelers to pay for, he's an all-pro. He's an all-pro player this last year. So, as Damon said, trading your backup, it would be like the 49ers who just drafted Dominic Pooney saying, hey, now we're gonna trade you Jake Brendel. They don't need Jake Brendel. They've got all these other guys now that they would rather play over. We'll trade you John Feliciano. Yeah, you've got Spencer Burford and Dominic Pooney all lined up and ready to play right guard. Of course you don't care about your old right guard. And the same thing with the Steelers. Come on. The Steelers have to get real. Are the Steelers bidding against themselves? Yeah, I guess, because there's nobody else bidding. But the 49ers don't have to make this move. They don't have to move Brandon Aiyuk on. He's on the roster this year. They don't have to move him to the Steelers. And John Lynch will be ripped by the fans if he makes a bad trade, and he knows it. So that's why the trade hasn't happened yet.
In the next 3-4 weeks, somebody's getting hurt. There is a wide receiver that's important on some team who will tear his ACL in practice. And then maybe the Steelers aren't bidding against themselves. This whole Brandon Aiyuk trade me to Pittsburgh or nothing. That ain't how it works. That ain't how it works.
That's an NBA thing.
Yeah,
that's an NBA trade. I want to go to the Lakers. Work out the best deal you can with the Lakers after I saw you off the kneecap and give you no leverage at all. So, I mean, it's like the Niners have the leverage, and Aiyuk just made them an offer that would make you swear that he has the leverage.
You would think, right? And look, nobody in this is cloaked in glory. Nobody's really handled this very well. I think that the 49ers just blew this from Jump Street.
Did they? Or did they just have an unwilling participant on the other end? Because they wanted to cut a deal long ago.
I think that they should have they should have better calculated the situation. They certainly shouldn't have let the situation deteriorate to this situation, because it's only getting worse.
Is it getting worse? I don't know. I don't know what it's getting anymore. I don't know what to believe or how to gauge this.
Well, what we do know is that it's purgatory. They're in a constant state of not getting closer to a deal, nor are they getting closer to a trade, it would seem. So it's just stuck. They're spinning their tires in the mud. It's time to get rolling towards a Super Bowl. What does Brandon Aiyuk really fucking want? Can you fit it into the salary cap and worry about it in the offseason? Go ahead and do that. How about this? How about a 1-year, $35 million contract? Then we'll never fucking see you again. We'll trade, you can leave after this year. Just go win a Super Bowl. That's it. That's it.
How about this? How about if we're going to trade you a very good, we'll get it. We'll meet in the middle between good and great. A very good football player a very good young football player who's entering his prime. We're not talking about, Devontae Adams, who's 32. We're talking about 26-year-old Brandon Aiyuk, who's now just entering the 5-year awesomeness. So if you're going to trade a guy, a 26-year-old receiver entering his prime, he's a very good young player. I think it's not unreasonable to demand that the Steelers give you in return a very good young player, or assets that add to that you could then flip to a third team for a very good player that could help you this year. Because as you said, this is it. I don't agree that the Niners are driving off the cliff, but this year's Super Bowl is the only Super Bowl they can win. So, go for it. And you've got this great team. So I do believe that whatever is the result of this has to result in the 49ers being better positioned to go for it this year, not fortified with draft picks for the future. I think that's a lose. I think that's a classic lose. And I agree with Kawakami, who basically said if the 49ers trade Brandon Aiyuk for draft pick compensation in the 2025 draft or beyond, that is a failure.
It is
absolute failure, and they have to own it.
Yeah. No, and again, now here we are in egos and reputations and precedent and all these words that, get people nervous around this one decision. Again, the single easiest thing to do in my mind is just pay him. Pay him. This is a player you want. He really is. He's a player you want. But for this moment, I don't even know what his voice sounded like. He's not a pain in the ass. He is over this, but he's really good. He's everything Kyle Shanahan you'd think would want in a wide receiver. You're lucky that he became this, because it didn't feel like he was going to become this. And what is he, Frankenstein's monster now? You got to deal with him. He's not quite Justin Jefferson, but the dollar amount that you think you can't afford to pay him today is going to be pretty normal 2-3 years from now. It really will be. So I just win the Super Bowl, man. That's it.
I know, but I mean, once again, these like if I bought my parents' house in the Sunset District in today for $45 million, that's a bad deal. Just because someday it might be worth $45 million, we're living in the present. So you're spending money in the present. So just because his contract will look better 5 years from now, I don't think is the reason that I would give it to him. The reason I would give it to him if I were the Niners, And people say, well, what side are you on this? Well, first of all, it's a financial dispute that doesn't involve me. So I'm not really on either side. But I guess if I had to be on one side or the other, I'm probably more on Brandon's side than the Niners side. Why? Because I see that the 49ers play the 28th fastest pace in the league. That hurts his production. I see all the other weapons. That hurts his production. I see how often they run the ball as opposed to pass the ball. That hurts his production. Those are three elements right there that all drag on his production. And he still had a 1,300-yard season, and he did it efficiently. And efficiency is the buzzword of modern analytics connected to sports. It's like you're good if you're good, you're great if you're great, but you're awesome if you're efficient. Well, he's efficient. For the number of targets he gets, he produces. So he's efficient. As you said, he's not a diva. He blocks in the run game. They run it more than any other team in pro football. They pass it less than any other team in pro football. They play a super slow pace, and they have all these other weapons. So it's like there's like all these elements that drag down his production. So I don't think you can be hardlining like the Niners are on his production when there are multiple elements out of his control that are dragging his numbers and suppressing his numbers.
Right.
I think in that situation, you got to pay.
Well, and the whole, they throw the ball so little, they don't need elite wide receivers. I would almost argue to the contrary. In the name of efficiency, the team that throws the ball the least needs to make sure that those throws are more likely to connect and be successful than the team is just whipping it all around the damn field all the time. So I do think that the 49ers absolutely suppress Brandon Aiyuk statistically. I think that he unlocks them and does a great job doing that offensively. And again, it feels like you got people arguing over something that is not even about what we're trying to do here. And Brandon Aiyuk, you would think, has gotten so close to winning a Super Bowl that would mean more to him than it seems to mean. But then he said, I want just the money matters more. They put him in a situation
in the Pivot podcast.
Yep. They put him in a situation where it looked like that money was attainable, and then he walked away from it. And we're right back to, well, what do you really want then? What do you really want? I think what Brandon Aiyuk really wants is to be paid well to be a San Francisco 49er. And I think that the 49ers should want that too.
It sounds like it's gotten personal.
Right. And that
means who knows?
That's where the unprofessional drifts into this. It really that's where this becomes, what are you doing here? Like John and Kyle, I know that you think that your egos are attached to winning this negotiation in the media somehow. It's not. Your egos are attached to winning a Super Bowl. And no one, if Brandon Aiyuk is on this team and wins the Super Bowl this year, not anyone will ever bring up how much Brandon Aiyuk was or wasn't paid. It will never be a discussion point ever again. It just feels like the team has one thing left to do, and without this player, they would get further away from doing that one thing left to do. And I don't like that. And again, it was supposed to be.
There isn't also, the more you look at the trades,
not a smooth offseason at all. And
the more you look at the potential options too, there's not an option out there that saves this. There just isn't. Okay, so the Steelers give you, let's just say, for the sake of the conversation, James Daniels in a second-round pick. And then you flip that second-round pick to Denver. And now you've got James Daniels and Cortland Sutton.
I'm sorry. Can you please just since we're talking precedent, is there any precedent of an NFL 3-team deal?
Well, this wouldn't be a 3-team deal. This would be 2 trades. This would be 2 different trades.
Okay.
I know what you're saying, but we're either staring at a holdout situation, a trade involving Brandon Aiyuk, which you hardly ever see. When was the last all-pro player you saw traded. It doesn't happen a lot either. Or potentially 2 trades, because the 49ers are saying that they need to get a receiver out of this, and the Steelers don't have any receivers they want. Now, I just saw Van Jefferson and Des Fitzpatrick in the preseason. They're not Aiyuk, obviously, but I mean, they do have receivers that you could take back if you didn't want tiny little diminutive Calvin Austin, who's, that's the name that's been rumored to be coming to the Niners. But I mean, this is going to be unprecedented no matter what, right? I mean, it's either a great player is going to sit out the year, or he's going to get dealt to the Steelers, or he's going to get dealt to the Steelers, and then the Niners are going to take those picks that they get from the Steelers and flip them for a receiver. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to make of this situation at this point. Would the Niners be taking a different approach if Pearsall and Cowing were looking great? Because those guys have done nothing. And now they're saying they need a receiver back. I mean, this is what a disaster. What a disaster mess. And I don't know if I would blame. I don't think it's too convenient to say the Niners screwed this up, because it was said by Ian Rappaport in February that Aiyuk's people were not going to sign a contract until the wide receiver market had fully clarified itself. So they weren't willing to talk and make a deal. Now, they said they got close, but my guess is that once the market reset, that it got further. They probably get further away from the
49ers should have begun their game of hardball. It's hard to go from softball to hardball, which is what the Niners are trying to put, sort of appear now. They should have said to Brandon Aiyuk, what do you mean the market? You're not on the market. You're under contract for $14.5 million, and that's that.
Yeah, well, you just saw what Aiyuk said to the 5th-year option. So if the Niners are holding tight on the 5th-year option, and he's holding tight on he's not going to play on the 5th-year option, this is going to get juicy, because that means they're not trading him, and that means that he's not coming in. He has to come in by week 11, or the year doesn't accrue. So we know he's going to be there by week 11. But then the question at that point is, if things are really that contentious that the guy's going to hold out to week 11, he's probably not worth anything, because at that point, he's probably going to come in. He's probably not going to have a great attitude. They're going to have a terrible attitude about him. I don't see that working out well. You know what? I'm just not going to show up till week 11, and then I'll let the year accrue. And it's like, really? So I mean, this is they're in a pickle in this situation. But the one thing that's so aggravating is that the Steelers are sitting there going, you know what, we'll take your great asset for pennies on the dollar, and they're bidding against nobody, and they feel like they have the leverage, and yet the Niners feel like they have the leverage. Aiyuk feels like he has the leverage. So let's let it all play out. I think what we're going to figure out here is that Aiyuk and the Steelers are wrong, and that they don't have the leverage, and that the Niners actually, whether you like it or not, do have the leverage, and we'll see what they do with it. Do they let him sit and make a point and not set a precedent, or do they bow and say, you know what, we're inside of our Super Bowl window, let's get it done? I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do, but something has to get done. The season is approaching. You would think that not just for the Niners, for the Steelers too. If they want this player, you would think they would want some kind of resolution before the season gets underway. But maybe they're footloose and fancy free, because they're just like, hey, man, we're going to get a great receiver for nothing. We'll just hang out. We get him in week 1, great. If we don't get him to week 8, that's fine too. I don't know. I'm not sure what their approach is.
Like and subscribe. That's what we'd like your approach to be. We'll get to some super chats here in just a second. Again, Brandon Aiyuk hijacking another goddamn show. Can we talk a little bit about the preseason game? Just a few observations from what we saw against Tennessee. I know that you and I had plans to do a little post game together, but I got family in town, so wasn't able to do that. By the way, my mom is texting me like, I'm going to take an Uber to go get a McDonald's. I'm like, Mom, take the car. It's in the driveway. Anyway, three biggest things from the Tennessee Titans game. No outcome of any preseason game matters, so who cares? Number one,
what were the biggest things that happened in this game? I would say
Larry Malik Mustafa is going to be one of the best rookies in the NFL this year, and he's going to play a big role on the 49ers this year. I mean, that to me is what stood out, maybe more than anything else. Malik Mustafa, that textbook tackle that he made on the goal line was just
he's awesome.
He can play, man. He is a natural fit on a football field. We saw it early in training camp. We've seen it now. All the little early indications of you got a player here. You got a player here in Malik Mustafa.
Great player. Great player. He looks awesome. JP Mason, I think, would be at the top of the list. I mean, he had a tackle breaking 11-yard run early in the game. I thought the Niner offensive line and Eric Saubert, their blocking tight end, really looked good in that first quarter. Dominic Pooney pushing Mason across the goal line. I thought Pooney looked good.
Well, that's the thing. So I don't know if Pooney's going to start week one. That's a starting guard. He start this year. He's going to start. He might not start week one because you just don't need to throw the rookie in there right away unless you have to. But that guy's a starter. He will start games this year for sure. He can play.
I think week one he'd get Quentin Williams, so that would be quite the deal. But yeah, Mustafa looked good. The other guys I thought looked good. Kalia Davis, man, Kalia Davis. I've been waiting on Kalia Davis for a couple years now, and I've been touting him. He played linebacker. Then he just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And now he's 6'2", 310 pounds, but he's still got great foot quickness. And I've been talking about him for a couple of years, but he's just had this knee that's been a nagging thing. He hasn't been able to get over the injury and get out there. And man, he had a 3-play sequence in the second quarter. He burst into the backfield, stuffed the run, split the double team. Next play, he jumps into the backfield again, fell off the block, and the runner, got a few yards. But man, Kalia Davis, and then the next play, he penetrated and stuffed the run. I thought he looked great. And that was the best I've ever seen Kalia Davis look. I thought Rock Ya-Sin looked really good in the secondary. I thought Curtis Robinson, who's been fantastic in this camp at linebacker, he just gives them another guy. And then in the second half, some of the younger guys, Evan Anderson and Tatum Bethune against the run, Jonathan Garvin, who they just signed the other day against the run. I thought he looked really, really good. Renardo Green had a fumble recovery. Cody Schrader had a really nice run that was called back because of a hold against Ronnie Bell. So that negated his best run of the night. I thought he looked good. He had a 30-yard. Schrader also had a 30-yard kick return.
Okay, do you want to tell me everything you liked all at once in some 15-minute monologue, or can we stop and talk about anything?
Well, you asked me for 3 or 4 of the names. I'm just looking at my notes. That's what jumped out to me. I mean, those Jalen Graham too.
Curtis Robinson. Yeah. Dude, this guy's more than a special teamer now. He can play. He looked really darn good filling in for Fred Warner. I thought he jumped out. Look, maybe it's because of the Brandon Aiyuk situation. I thought Trent Taylor might be on this team, and not just because of special teams. Chris Conley is the only other wide receiver that it looks like this team really trusts right now, which is, again, kind of why Brandon Aiyuk should be signed by this team. That's all the good stuff that happened. The bad, Larry, Kyle Shanahan gets destroyed on Planet Internet for all types of shit that he really shouldn't be destroyed for. It seems like nobody holds his feet to the fire on a year in, year out, clear blind spot by him, by his coaching staff. Special teams is an uncorrected issue coming into year 8 for this fucking guy. Their kickoff and punt return ain't impressive. It never is. Their kickoff and punt coverage ain't impressive. It never is. And that's got to knock it. I mean, Shanahan gets criticized for the wrong things and basically lives a criticism-free existence for the thing that he should be criticized for the most. Dude, your special teams suck all the time, not some of the time. You got a really good punter. You drafted a kicker who I think is better than a lot of people do, but the kickoff coverage, the return coverage blows for years now. And it sucked in preseason game number 1 this year. Not good. Not good. I don't know. I don't understand why people who love criticizing Kyle Shanahan never even bring that up to me. It's the biggest, most low-hanging, dangling fruit to criticize his entire head coaching career through. Your special team sucks, dude, every fucking year.
Well, they've had different coordinators. I mean, they had Richard Hightower a couple years ago. They let him go. They brought in Brian Schneider. Schneider had a great career as a special teams coach in the NFL, many, many years with Seattle. They had, one of the best special teams units in the game. So Invader 49er says, Larry gave me shit for calling for Schneider to be fired. Yeah, because you don't know what you're talking about, Invader. And Schneider's one of the best special teams coaches in the game. I mean, is he as good as Dave Taub in Kansas City? There's guys that are considered a little bit, have a little bit more credentials than him, but Schneider's considered a top tier special teams coach. This is
stay in a lane.
You got to give this a few weeks. This is brand new. This was this is a brand new rule that didn't exist in any.
Not brand new. Punts are not brand new.
It didn't exist. This kickoff rule did not exist.
I'm not really worried about that. The punt return. I mean,
the punt return. Yeah, I mean, I'm not the special teams coach, but I mean, the 49ers definitely need to have a better special teams, coverage units. They've got to be better. They've got to find the right return guy. They've just got to be better. They gave up a big return on the kickoff, and it was the guy slipped away. But I mean, this is all that we're talking about multiple things here at one time. The kickoff is brand new. Let's see what it looks like in 3 weeks. Let's see what it looks. I mean, these guys, literally Schneider is openly kind of discussing this in the media room with us. Like, yeah, we're not really sure what we're going to get. And we think it's going to be this and we think it's going to be that. So this early August experimentation on this play, I think you got to give them 3 or 4 weeks to see if they can figure it out. Okay, so I wouldn't overreact to that. As far as the Niners special teams overall, I mean, a couple years ago, their special teams were horrible. They found a way to be one of the NFL's better teams without really good special teams. But man, it would be nice if occasionally they had great special teams. Now, they have invested a lot of money in special teams. They've probably invested more than anybody else. I mean, think about it. Their punter was a 4th-round pick. Their kicker was a 3rd-round pick. They signed George Odom. He's an all-pro special teamer. They've given several special teams roster spots. I mean, some teams have backup starters. They've accommodated their special teams by having true special teamers on their roster. So they've done everything you can do. Switch out the coordinator, change out the specialist, put more emphasis in the draft on special teams. They've done all of these things, and it hasn't had a appreciable impact yet. And all I can say is you just got to keep trying until you get it right. I mean, I think Schneider's a good special teams coach. If you're asking me, do I think he's a good special teams coach? I do. But the results are the results. Yeah, they need better results.
My opinion doesn't matter. 26-yard punt return, and there's nothing new about NFL punts. Nothing. That wasn't good. And I think it's a constant weak spot, and it's clearly something Kyle, I don't know, isn't repping enough, doesn't concentrate on enough.
Well, let's focus on a game. Let's focus on a game when there's not, 25 guys not playing. I mean, let's take a look at this thing and because I think that may have had something to do with it.
None of those starters who are playing special teams anyways.
No, but a lot of the guys who are playing special teams might be in there for the very first time. Or when you have 23 or 24 or 25 guys who don't show up for work, I guarantee you, if we had Schneider sitting here, he would tell us, hey, the special teams depth chart changed this way between, Thursday and Friday or whatever. I mean, they didn't have everybody in the spots they wanted them in, but you're right. The history of their failures is really the overarching point here. And they have to improve. They have to improve. I mean, I don't believe that it's a third of the game, but you can lose the game on special teams.
Yeah. Look, 2 of the last 3 Super Bowl losses for the 49ers got a special teams issue dotted all over it. You're not in overtime with the Kansas City Chiefs if Moody hit the point after touchdown. And if the Ravens don't bring one back in the second half kickoff, you probably win that Super Bowl too. So I know we got even a different coach in there and a long time ago in there, but I didn't like that it remained an issue, but it is. It's all preseason football. Who gives a shit? Cody Schrader, man, I wanted him to look a little bit better in the run. He had a wall of butt cheeks in front of him every single time he got the ball. He was undone by bad blocking. He didn't get much of an opportunity for any space or any daylight to run through. I thought that Schrader's highlight in the game was the blitz pickup when Allen took a big shot down the field, and unfortunately Ronnie Bell went right through his hands and off of his helmet. Would have been a very acrobatic catch, mind you, but it hits you in your hands. You're supposed to catch it. Schrader's blitz pickup was a good sign. Nothing else really impressive, but I think that is sort of what the coaches are looking for. Running through holes is what everybody in this league can do who plays running backs. Can you pick up a blitz in the end zone? It was good to see Schrader do that. I didn't think D. Winters had a particularly good game. He's fast. He's speedy. He blew a lot. Look, there's a lot of blown tackles in preseason football because these guys aren't repping really tackling in training camp. That I think will be a course correction as more football gets played. D. Winters kind of lollygagged a little bit, just kind of trotting after someone down the sideline. I didn't like to see that. I'm not going to say it was a Chase Young NFC title game level lollygagging bad rep, but didn't like that out of D. Winters. I did like Curtis Robinson. I thought that Josh Dobbs had some good moments. I thought that the sack he took on 4th down was absurd. There were, was anyone bad? I don't know, but unimpressive. Braden Willis at fullback is an experiment that cannot hit the regular season. He's clearly out of position doing that. Ambry Thomas, he whiffed on a mega tackle, and we might not see him ever again in a 49er uniform. The broken forearm, too bad for Ambry Thomas there, but I think he was on the outside looking in anyway. I thought Bradley Beal Jr. got spun around a little bit too much, got lost out there in space a little bit, and then kick and punt return just has to get better. Absolutely has to get better. It was interesting that Clay Kubiak got to call the plays. I thought that was an interesting note from Greg Papa during the broadcast. And then you even had Shanahan in the postgame say, yeah, it's kind of boring if I'm not calling plays. Like, I didn't know what to do with my hands is what he said. I thought it was pretty funny. He dropping a little Ricky Bobby on the postgame. But it was, it was thoroughly sort of unnotable preseason opener against the Titans. And the goal of any preseason game is to not get hurt. And one of their guys got hurt. So it was kind of a, Ronnie Bell, that is the ultimate 1 step forward, 2 steps back football player on this team. I don't know. Look, there's a part of me that's looking at all this thinking about it might be time to start fading the Niners. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. Call it bad vibe summer. Call it, contract holdouts. Call it not impressed by what I've seen. I don't know. There's something that just feels askew about this. Don't you think?
I don't agree. No. I don't agree. I mean, you're talking about a preseason number 1 game. The tackling is always horrible in the first preseason game. That's why the first preseason game cannot be evaluated, because when you don't play football for a long time and you can't tackle, and that's what happens. So they were tackling was bad in this game. I disagree. I think they're stacked. I think they're super loaded. I mean, I look at, they got a ton of running backs. They got a ton of receivers. They're deeper on the offensive line. They're really, really good in the secondary. I kind of like their situation, to be honest. I mean, I didn't expect that. First of all, in this game, no Purdy. I didn't love either quarterback, but I thought both quarterbacks played okay.
They were all right.
I thought they looked okay. I thought, like, I went into the game thinking they can't win any games if Purdy gets hurt. I came out of the game thinking maybe they can. Maybe they can win a game or two if Purdy gets hurt. They also have a lot of guys who touch the football are really, really good. I like what I see in their offensive line. And to me, it looks like an improved offensive line. We don't know about the defensive line because the defensive line really didn't play very much.
I thought that, the Niners 2s and 3s early in the game kind of held their own against Tennessee. By the way, Tennessee came out playing like a fucking playoff game. They were blitzing on first down. They were they had their
blitzed a lot, and they also played their O-line, their starting O-line most of the game.
Yeah. So I mean, there were some things, again, Pooney, highlight, Mustafa, highlight. I thought there were enough drops, though, to make this team say, we got to get this deal done with Brandon Aiyuk.
I mean, Tay Martin had a drop. Who else dropped? Ronnie Bell had a drop. So those are the only two that I saw.
But they were drops that would have been like another 100 yards in the past. They were big plays. They were plays.
Right. I mean, so Brandon Allen threw for 98 yards. And he was 7 of 13. He probably should have been 9 of 13 for 130. But I mean, ultimately, I didn't think the drops were that bad in this game. I liked what I saw to Tay Martin. I think he's an interesting player. We saw Darby catch a 30-yard pass. Chris Conley looks really good. I thought Jake Tungus was the best I've seen Jake Tungus look in a long time. I
wanted to see Pline do something outside.
He did play.
Teams. No, he played special teams.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see him at all from scrimmage. Some of the guys that really impressed me, I thought Tatum Bethune. He had a tackle for a loss. He had 8 tackles. He had 5 solo tackles. I mean, the guy was all around the football. Curtis Robinson, I thought, looked great. I liked what I saw to D. Winters. I liked what I saw to Jalen Graham. I liked what I saw to Jonathan Garvin, Renardo Green. A little concerned by, Jair Brown looked really good early. Just a little concerned as far as that second linebacker next to Warner. I mean, we didn't see Campbell. The other guys all played pretty well. But I'm kind of a little concerned about Campbell for Greenlaw. I think Campbell for Greenlaw is a definite back step. I mean, and that to me, I think is gonna hurt them at some point this year. But overall, I thought it was a pretty clean performance. I thought the Titans did, the Titans, a representative performance for them. I thought there was some bad tackling. I'll tell you the area that is really a problem for the Niners. That Julius Chestnut, they threw him a screen pass. The 49ers just look so lost at defending the screen pass. And this is a multiple year thing. There's just way, way, way too much space. Everybody looks like they're playing at a speed that's not right. Man, I mean, I've seen this in camp where they throw a screen pass and the guy just looks like there's all kinds of room and nobody's moving all that well. I'd like to see them defend the screen pass a little bit better. And there was also a Malik Willis run where Willis ran 25 yards down the field and Beal totally lost contain. So if there was, to me, the big concern out of this game, outside of the Aiyuk holdout and that kind of thing, is the defensive end position, because you're not going to have Drake Jackson. Beal still looks raw.
Right, he gets spun around.
You're really, really thin there. I mean, they're really, really thin there. They may have to, last year it was Taco Charlton and a bunch of other guys. Get ready for the parade of defensive ends rolling through here in the next few weeks, because it's going to happen. They don't have good depth at defensive end, and they don't have Drake, and Beal looks as raw as ever. So he did have 3 tackles. But he had a couple nice plays, Beal did. But, I mean, he's supposed to be defensive end, 4 on this team. And Drake was supposed to be defensive end 5. Both those guys are on the roster. And I don't know that I think they might need a defensive end or two here. And that could be a real problem for them.
Is Nick Zakelj on this team week 1?
I mean, they're giving him every opportunity to make the team. It's Brendel and Nugent and Zakelj and Barch getting a lot of the run at center. They're trying desperately because I think they really like Zakelj as a prospect. He's big, he's smart, he's tough, he's Brock Purdy's best friend. I think they would like to have him as the backup center, but he's going to have to beat out Nugent and Barch and these other guys. And I don't think Zakelj looked all that great last night.
Didn't. And it was a couple nights ago. But it's good to have you here on Wake Up. Like and subscribe to both channels, please. Liking obviously helps that video grow. Subscribing means you'll be back. And hitting notify, make sure you know when we go live, whenever we do go live, either individually or together. Larry, again, this was supposed to be the preseason was supposed to be a little bit of a last chance to catch your breath and then go play an incredibly important regular season. The 49ers feel like they're gasping for air throughout this entire preseason. Again, Mike Silver with his bad vibe summer. I want it to be like, man, these really aren't bad vibes. But then you start looking at it all. You know, I appeared on a few other shows where, you know, the person is asking me skeptically about the 49ers. And I'll tell you, they don't have Brandon Aiyuk. And at any point in the time, Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, or George Kittle get hurt. And by the way, McCaffrey's already hurt. George Kittle's going to get hurt. And Deebo plays 17 games never. You're going to have some problems. You really are. You really, really are. Unless Brock Purdy has a Superman cape to put on, follow me, I know the way. Everything you've ever hoped in your franchise, next great Niner quarterback, I am all things. If Brock is that guy, then you know what? It's all good, right? Really don't have that much to worry about then after all. And all this stuff is just, these are players operating around Brock, and he really is the key that unlocks everything. And all of this talent, you know, he's not the beneficiary from it as much as he is helping them have all that talent reputation, because everybody has popped since this guy has become quarterback. You know, there wasn't all this talent around Jimmy Garoppolo, and it was a lot of the same team, but for McCaffrey. So I don't know, man. If I were the 49ers, I wouldn't give a shit about money, reputation, ego. I would get Trent Williams in, Brandon Aiyuk in as soon as possible, make everybody fucking happy. Kumbaya. See it. You get the New York Jets coming to town week 1. It's going to be here real quick.
You know, here's the thing about that. That sounds good, but it's nonsense. And here's why. Because it's a cap. So, yeah, sign all the guys this year.
But they're 30 million under.
But you won't sign, but that means you can't sign any of the guys next year. So that means, so if you're signing, but yeah, but the thing is, they have to. John Lynch has to. And some of the guys next year might be more valuable than the guys this year. I mean, Demo Lenore might be one of their best players, period. He's a free agent next year. If you give Trent big money and you give Aiyuk big money, bye-bye Mooney, bye-bye your starting corners and your starting left guard. So there's always, it's easy to say pay. It's kind of like the Giants, you know, used to hold up, you know, jerseys and, hey, look who we signed as a free agent. It's easy to sign free agents. You just pay the money. And then you hold up the jersey. But it's easy to say pay these guys, but it's hard to say get rid of these guys. And that's what you're saying, pay the guys this year because it's this year, but then you're going to lose all those guys next year.
How about this? If this year means you won a Super Bowl anyways, you're losing all those guys anyways. This team, how about if they do win a Super Bowl, they're not going to repeat.
Why are they losing all their guys? Just because they won the Super Bowl?
The whole team's going to come apart. Everyone's going to go get the top dollar somewhere else who can.
That's so funny because Kansas City just won the last 2 Super Bowls and they got all the same guys. So why does that not happen to them?
Because they're not paying the top paid player at like 7 different positions. The Niners chose to do business like that. So this comes apart some way, somehow anyway after this year.
I don't agree. I don't agree with that. Why? They have a 24-year-old quarterback and they're stacked and loaded. The 49ers have really good depth at like about of the 10 positions. They've got really good depth at like 6 or 7. So they're pretty fortified. It sounds good. Wait, hold on. Let me just finish this thought. It sounds good to say that this is the last dance, but it isn't the last dance. They have a young head coach. They have a young quarterback.
Right. Okay.
That's what matters. That's when you become a champion, when you have a good quarterback and a good head coach. That's what they have.
If they are so deep that you can say goodbye to the top line guys and just replace them with all this depth, then moving on from the top line guys will be easy.
But I mean, they don't. But there's no law that everybody keeps making this point. Like are you telling me that you're going to sit here and tell me on August 12th of 2024 that August 12th of 2025 we're going to be talking about a 49er team that has no Super Bowl chances? I disagree. I think they're going to have Super Bowl chances. I think they're going to have a very good. Okay, let's just say this. Now we're dancing around. I would say the 49ers will be a top 5 Super Bowl contender in 2025. So that means that it's not ending in 2024.
But you're regressing because right now you are nothing short of the number 1 Super Bowl contender.
I'm not regressing. I'm just saying I'm not admitting a regression. I'm saying they will at least be a top 5. They could be number 1. Right now they're in Vegas, I believe, and I don't know if that's just to the moment, but I believe I heard a couple weeks ago the Niners are the number 1 favorite right now.
Yep,
to win the Super Bowl. Next year they'll be among the top favorites. I don't know if they'll be the favorite, but they'll be in the top 3 or 4. That'll be my guess. So right. I don't subscribe to the theory that it's now or never because they have a 23-year-old quarterback who's getting better. I think it's going to be challenging, but it's not over. And because look at the NFC. I mean, who do you really fear in the NFC? Do you really fear Jared Goff in Detroit? Because I don't. And do you really fear Green Bay and Love? I think they're representative contender, but I don't. They're not like a juggernaut. To me, there's one team, or there's really 2 teams: Kansas City, and then the emerging Texans are like those teams that are just like, whoa, watch out.
I
don't see a watch out team in the NFC.
I think we're still going to hear from the Eagles. The Rams might have something to say. Seattle could be a surprise. It's always fun to count out the Cowboys, but you probably shouldn't. Maybe Tampa Bay is officially, the team that Mayfield never talks about. Dude, Baker Mayfield had a good year last year.
I mean, come on,
it was pretty good.
Yeah, no, I just think I'm not going to be the sky is falling. I don't believe the last dance thing. First of all, last dance, they even have a first dance. You got to have a first dance before you can have a last dance. There is no last dance. Stop. This team hasn't won shit. So that's 1. 2, there's young players, good young players on almost every position on this football team across the board. I mean, the only good players, really good players that are 30 plus on this team. Who? Trent. Kittle's 30. I think McCaffrey might be 29 or 30.
It's coming. Debo.
As far as really good players.
Right.
Debo's 28, I think. Isn't he 28? I'm just saying the Niners only have like 2 or 3 what we would consider foundation piece players that are on the wrong side of 30. They don't have anybody who's like 34, 35. This they're old is bullshit. They're old if you look at their roster and you want to say, well, they picked up Devondre Campbell. Okay, but is he a foundation piece of the 49ers or is he just a guy on the team? He's just a guy on the team. So, but technically they're older, right? Because he's older. They picked up Trent Taylor, another guy older, but is he a foundation piece? No. They picked up guys like Hubbard and Brandon Parker. They're older. Feliciano, they're older. That's what I'm saying. They're old guys are just guys. Old. They only have a couple of they don't have old foundation. That's all I'm saying. They really only have old. McCaffrey, I just looked at, he's 28. So he's not old. So, the age on the offense is Trent Williams. He's old. and Kittle is 30. And Juszczyk. Forgot about Juszczyk. Juszczyk is old. He's legitimately old. He's 33. Juszczyk, Kittle, and Trent on offense. On defense, how old is Javon Hargrave old? No. Yeah, he is. He's 31. So that's football old. So Javon Hargrave is 31, and Devondre Campbell is an older guy too. He is 31 as well, but still not ancient. And then the secondary is pretty young across the board. I think 28 Yadam, 28 Mooney. Everybody else is younger. So I'm just saying, it's like, look real close and look for the age on this roster. I mean, T.Y. McGill's an older guy. I'm just saying it's really not an old team at all. It's just it's an old couple of guys. They might have to replace their offensive tackle. I guarantee you, I guess my point would be this. I would guarantee you that if you went to every team in pro football and walked and went through their roster, you would find somewhere between 2 to 5 guys that have eclipsed the 30-year-old threshold. So the 49ers are not an old team.
No, I'm not worried about age. I'm not.
Yeah.
But I'm worried about how long you can keep a good thing going. You know, one of the questions I asked you right after I asked Eric Crocker this is how much more time does Kyle Shanahan get to keep on just running it back without breaking the finish tape first? He's got a lot of time now, it would seem, but it gets shorter and shorter. And believe me, if the Niners aren't in the Super Bowl this year, there's going to be a lot of anger out there. There's going to be a lot of angry people.
If they what?
If they aren't in the Super Bowl this year.
Anger? I mean, that might be a little misplaced. I mean, you don't go to the Super Bowl every year. I mean, you just don't. Now they should. I mean, their expectations are to go, but I mean, the reality is that it's a hard thing to do. It's a hard thing to do. So we'll see. I mean, I don't see the team coming. Like I looked at Houston last night and I thought, they're coming, because they really are coming. I mean, they have an amazing bevy of young players. The Deshaun Watson trade is the best and worst trade in the history of the NFL. Makes the Cowboy Herschel Walker trade look like nothing. And Houston is just fortified. They're set. I mean, Houston is set. So with Stroud and now Diggs and all these great weapons they have, Houston is going to be a monster.
I mean, how about the fact Joe Mixon's on that team now, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah,
they're loaded.
There's some very young, interesting teams on the come. But again, the Niners,
the Bears. How about the Bears this weekend? Did you see the Bears destroy Buffalo?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Watch that. Not bad. Again, let's not put too much in anything. Let's not. If we're
it's
not
the preseason, but like, take a look at Houston. If you take a real close look at Houston, they have C.J. Stroud, Joe Mixon, Dameon Pierce running the ball. They also have Jawar Jordan, who's a pretty good running back. Then they have a pretty good offensive line, right? They got Titus Howard at right tackle. They got Laramie Tunsil at left tackle. Those are outstanding tackles. And then listen to this receiver group: Tank Dell, Stephon Diggs, Nico Collins, Robert Woods, John Mechie. I mean, they've got Skoranek. I mean, they got and this Quintez Cephas rookie, that number 81. He is real. And then on defense, they added Danielle Hunter and they've got Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter off the edges. That ain't bad. Christian Harris at linebacker. They signed Azeez Al-Shaair away from Tennessee.
That's right.
So now they've got Derek Stingley. They've got Jimmy Ward, Jalen Petrie. They drafted Kamari Lassiter from Georgia, a really good player. The safety that they just had last night, Brandon Hill from Pittsburgh, he made a huge play. Texans, watch out for the Texans, man. Texans. If Stroud, if you're a believer, and they got Davis Mills backing up Stroud, Dalton Schultz is there now. I mean, they just got a ton. Houston looks good. Houston looks really, really good. If I had to sit there and say Super Bowl pick, I'd go a drama here. Niners Texans Super Bowl. Have you thought about your Super Bowl pick yet?
No.
If you make a Super Bowl pick.
I will make a Super Bowl pick, and it will be as completely worthless and empty as all Super Bowl picks are in week 1. And it will be an incredibly disposable moment in my broadcasting history.
Stephen Beer brings up a question that I think is a great topic here. What do you think of this? Stephen Beyer, he says, if you come to Aiyuk's temper tantrum, if you cave to Aiyuk's temper tantrum, you open the door for other players to act the same way. How concerned are you by the precedent setting of, hey, man, I don't want to play on the 5th-year option. You bitch, you moan, you hold out, you bitch, you moan, you hold out, and then you get what you want. Do you think that's a good thing to cave to that? Or are you concerned at all about that?
So I don't think it's a good thing. Establishing a little precedent is, the theme of the show here today, but it's not legal precedent. Because you do one thing for player X doesn't mean you have to do the same thing for player Y.
Right.
So it really isn't precedent as much as it might embolden some players to, get a little bit more. It's a players league. It isn't. Like, the NFL is built to beat that shit down. It really is. And I don't think it's a new concern or a new way of doing business that will then forever haunt the 49ers with all of their first-round draft picks.
Scott Schendel.
How about this? Isn't it nice that the 49ers actually have a first-round draft pick where they did want to pick up a 5th-year option on? They had so many bums in the first round that this is a problem that really doesn't come across their radar very often. It really doesn't.
They've missed on too many picks. There's no question about that. They missed on the entire 22 draft except for Purdy.
So
Scott Schendel says, I want to get paid, but only go to a top contender. LOL.
Yeah. I mean,
that's basically what he's saying. I want to get paid, and I want to play for the team I want to play for. Man.
I'm not worried about it. I'm looking at who's important around here. Who's important around here? If you're really important around here, you're young, you're a Pro Bowler, you're an All-Pro, you're still in your late 20s. This is a guy I'm looking to do business with. Do you fit us well or do you fit us perfectly? You kind of fit us perfectly. Yeah, all right, man. I didn't want to put a cherry on top of your sundae, but here you go. I guess maybe this is fatherhood. My entire day around my children is spent calculating, is this a battle worth having? Is this a battle worth? Like, we all know that you shouldn't have a graham cracker before dinner, but we can argue over this graham cracker for 35 minutes, and then maybe you get it anyways because I cave and I just want to shut you up. Or I can just be like, all right, here's half a graham cracker, eat it, and then you can have the other half. You got to pick and choose the battles that get you through the day smoother. I believe the 49ers have picked a battle that, if they lose it, they're not going to get through the day smoother. Brandon
drives me
Aiyuk
crazy.
on this team is not a good thing.
No, you'd rather have them than not. Jubel Ray says California state tax is 13%, Pennsylvania's 3%. That's like $3 million a year difference. We're at a point now. If tax rates are going to be that dramatically different state to state, should the NFL have a universal tax across the board so that there is no advantage to being in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, as opposed to San Francisco, California,
Florida,
or
Texas.
San Francisco versus Florida versus Texas,
Right.
because
Tax-free states.
you are technically, if you have a lot of money, and a lot of us have a hard time relating to this, but if you do have millions and millions of dollars, damn right you're concerned about the tax rate, and that's a major factor. And it probably shouldn't be at the end of the day. Really? I mean, should you have to pay more to play in a league where there's all these other things that are equal? Where's the advantage to the California teams for their disadvantage of having to pay, their players have to pay higher tax situations. So where's the advantage? Is it the West Coast weather? Is that the advantage?
Right. You don't need a shovel. You'll never have to start your car with an ice scraper and a battery because it needs a jump because it died in the winter. there are some
Grass
advantages.
fields out here.
California, yeah, it's wine, women, and weed. We got all that. But look, if the 49ers, or excuse me, if the NFL really wanted to say, okay, well, the whole point of the salary cap is everything's supposed to be fair, then you sort of need a sliding salary cap based on where the team is in the tax bracket that it sits in. How about this for an example? All right, so Damon, it's Matt Nahagian at 95.7 the game. Odyssey's out of money. We got to lay you off. I'm sorry. Click. Jillian, bad news. I just got laid off. It's going to be hard to stick around San Francisco in the short term. Maybe we need to look elsewhere. I don't know. You got a job. Jillian works at Salesforce. Well, look, Salesforce has got an office in Indianapolis. If you made what you made, we could go to Indianapolis. I could get a job there covering the fucking Hoosiers and everything would be okay. It would suck to kind of go back to Indianapolis, but this is an option for us. And she's like, no, it really isn't, because Salesforce would take my salary and reduce it because we're no longer in California, we're in Indianapolis, and they'd make it the same. It would impact the company's bottom line the same. And I feel that maybe this is what the NFL needs to do, or the NFL needs to. I just think that they need to either be able to pay more to players and not have quarterback salaries count against the salary cap, or they have to have a salary cap that slides based on what tax bracket your franchise is based in or something. I mean, if the whole thing is it's all same and the equal, every NASCAR is built the same. It's the same car over and over and over again. The difference is the driver and the style and the technique and the calculations. That's not what the NFL is. It claims to be that. It projects that, but it isn't.
Vice says, that's why I'm leaving California. My business can't make it here. We got this one. Sean Turner's like, yeah, but then Damon, you'd have to live in Indianapolis.
Exactly. That is a point that I immediately brought up. I've already done that. I don't want to do that again. I remember, man, my buddy used to run a restaurant downtown that was in a very touristy place. So they get a lot of tourists in the restaurant, which, look, if you work in the restaurant industry in San Francisco, you don't want to be dealing with a whole bunch of hard to please tourists. You want to be dealing with the locals. So it was a job that he didn't particularly love. And my buddy's got a great tableside manner. Like, he doesn't, motherfuck the person ordering dinner ever. But one night he was just being tested. And the guy was from Iowa. And he's like, how much is this steak? This is a $65 steak. Let me tell you, this steak back in Des Moines is a $25 steak, and it's just as good. My buddy leaned over and he said, I'm so sorry that you feel that way. Let me explain why it is that way. Because when you're done with this steak, you're going to be in San Francisco. When you're done with your $29 steak, you're in fucking Des Moines. And
I'm sure there's very nice people in Des Moines. I'm sure it's a very nice place to live.
There sure are. It's a great place to be from. But I don't think you'd want to move there, And so I don't even remember what my original point was. What was I saying? Oh, yeah. I didn't want to go back to Indy. I didn't want to go back to the Midwest. I love being in California. It ain't for everyone. If you don't want to be here, the great news is you'll never be forced to be here. No one's going to force you to stay here. You want to leave? You want to move your business? Go right ahead. Go right ahead. To say you won't be missed is an exaggeration. You won't be missed. You want to leave?
James Wexel. Do you know James Wexel?
James
he wrote a book on the Steelers. So he's a Steeler Nation guy, right? He's a Steeler guy.
Okay.
He says, I was told the 49ers have been asking the Steelers for 2 number 1s. That's interesting. Then another guy says on Twitter says the Steelers have no verbal agreement in place with 49ers for Brandon Aiyuk and are not in the process of hammering out final details per sources, and any potential deal would not involve Steelers giving up a player. So once again, I mean, this
can't take that deal.
Yeah, I mean, that's once again, if the Steelers are not giving up a player, then and it's his only draft picks, then it's almost a bad deal by definition for the 49ers. Just on that alone, just by just knowing that, because you're trading a great asset, a very good wide receiver, and you're trading him at 26 inside your Super Bowl window in August. No, that just doesn't compute. There's no way you can sell that to Niner fans as like, hey, you know what? I know it doesn't look good on the surface. No, it doesn't look good, period. On the surface,
Wait a minute, though, Larry. Hold on. Go back. I'm going to kind of hold one of your points that you were making earlier against you.
Okay.
You said that this team had a robust and bright and fuzzy future. So, if you don't win the Super Bowl this year, no problem. You're going to be winning a Super Bowl in the following years because you're so young, you're so deep, and Brock and Kyle and everything. Then go ahead. Then take that deal. Take the number ones. Right?
Well, but no, because that's not the issue. The issue is you have to be able to look Trent Williams in the eye. Trent Williams is a force. He's a man. He's 6'7", 6'8", whatever he is, 330 pounds. He is the biggest, he's the biggest personality in the room. He is the leader of the team. You can't
He's not even here.
But he will be there. And you can't make a deal and give away good players while you're trying. Well, you're basically saying to Trent, hey man, we're trying everything to win a Super Bowl this year. Oh, by the way, we just got rid of one of our best players for draft pick compensation solely. So that the draft pick compensation solely thing doesn't work. It's not because the 49ers have no chance to win the Super Bowl. It's because they can't look the Trents and the Kittles in the eye and say, give it all up for this year. Oh, and we're not, by the way, we're not giving it all up for this year, but because we just traded one of our best players away for future draft pick compensation. But you ought to give us everything you got this year. See, that's the issue.
I think
it's
that's
not about
Brandon Aiyuk.
Not about whether they win this year or next year.
Again, I would sign Brandon Aiyuk, and I saw people ripping me like, oh, if Damon were a hostage negotiator, all the hostages would be killed. No. What are we? Are we trying to return the hostages, or are we trying to get to the Super Bowl? Because I'm going to tell you right now, I'll sacrifice some hostages for the Super Bowl because that's what we're here for. I'm negotiating for the Super Bowl, not for the release of the hostages. So I don't care who dies on the route to a Super Bowl, and neither should you anymore. Whose feelings are hurt, whose ego gets bruised, who gives a shit?
Label up trade BA for Fatanu and Frazier. Oh my God.
You know what? Okay, sure.
I would do that in a freaking heartbeat.
Yeah, let's do that.
They would never do that. It is amazing how Brandon Aiyuk is an all-pro 26-year-old wide receiver. The guys who touch the football mean so much in pro football. And yet, when it comes time to making a trade, it's like, we don't want to trade this. We don't want to trade that. We don't want to trade that. It's like, well, do you want a 26-year-old all-pro wide receiver or not? I get it. You want to get over. You want to make a great deal. I want a filet mignon for $4.99, but guess what? It doesn't work that way.
Your name's when you're done eating that filet, by the way.
The filet mignon for $4.99. It's like, I want it, but guess what? It doesn't exist. The Brandon Aiyuk for a backup offensive lineman and a backup safety, it doesn't exist. So that's just the way it is. And if it winds up being draft picks, man, that's going to be really, really bitter for the 49ers. And they're going to have some, believe me, if the Niners trade Brandon Aiyuk to any team and all they get back is 2025 draft picks, Kyle Shanahan's going to have a very real conversation with Trent Williams because he's going to be hacked off, really, really pissed. And I don't blame him. He should be. If I risked everything and put it all out there on the line and you're selling off the best players on the team in our go for it year, no.
Wouldn't it be just as difficult to say to Trent, hey, by the way, we might not even see him to week 11 because we're going to play a level of hardball with this guy where we actually make him make the choice to sit out. And now forget it. Not only do we not have draft pick compensation, but we don't even have the player that is really important to us and our success right now. So I think either way,
they're not forcing him to do that. He's doing that. That's his choice. That's not their choice. It's his choice. As you said earlier, accurately, he has a contract. They have a contract for him. If he holds out until week 11, that's not on the 49ers. That's on him. I that's the way I see it. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the people in the chat don't see it that way. But to me, if Brandon Aiyuk holds out to week 11, that's on Brandon Aiyuk because they have a contract for him right now, and they've tried to work out a situation with him. I think we're all tired of it, want it to go away. But I will say this. I want it to go away, and I'm sure the Niners and Lynch and Shanahan do too. But I really believe strongly, Damon, that they will be screwing this up royally if they give this guy away for 50 cents or 75 cents on the dollar just to make it go away.
Yep.
Seriously. If you're going to make it go away, and that's why you're going to take less for your assets, you're going to get ripped. The fans are going to rip you. And because the fans only care about one thing, they care about the players and they care about winning. So if you make a good trade, they'll be for you. But if you make a bad trade, they're going to tear you up. And Lynch and Shanahan right now are very popular. And I would say they both can write their ticket. But if they trade Brandon Aiyuk today for a bag of pretzels, the heat will be dialed up by the fan base and the media on that duo. And their we can write our own ticket thing changes dramatically. I think if they make a bad trade here involving the fans love Lynch and Shanahan, but they love the players more. And if you hand away one of the great players and get nothing, that you're going to get ripped by the fans. And it's going to be pretty rough too. I think
I would give Brandon Aiyuk a deal that keeps him in town, and I'd give it to him today. And I would change the vibes of the bad vibe summer. And then I'd turn around to Trent and be like, Ayuk's in. What the fuck do you need? Because by the way, you got a contract too, buddy. You have a very well-paid contract too. And you're doing this because you want more guaranteed. So now it's about more than just this year for you. So, if we did come back with just draft picks, you're here for more than 1 year. It's not like this is your retirement year. I don't know. I would sign Brandon Aiyuk and I would just get this in my rear view mirror. It's just money. The cap's going to go up. You can figure it out on the back end. This is math for tomorrow. You got the money today to do it. Worry about the math tomorrow. Worry about precedent, not at all. Go win a Super Bowl, sign the player that fits you so very, very well and would make Brock, I think, a very happy quarterback. I would do that. So look, I'm really happy that your alarm went off today, Larry, and we got to do a wake up because coming up at 11 on Damon Bruce Plus, my buddy Cyrus, your buddy Cyrus is joining me as we really go about celebrating a remarkable moment in a remarkable career. I'm glad that we got the Niners stuff out of the way and wake up because I'm about to talk about Steph Curry with Cyrus coming up and look at the Warriors and where they stand and how Steph Curry just did something so very, very special in a career that is so very special. And everybody who might have not liked Steph Curry because he was a Warrior and you didn't like the Warriors, the fact that the whole world collectively got to root for Steph Curry there was pretty cool to watch happen. And everyone kind of gets it now. And so that's what we're going to be talking about at 11. I know later on this week, in the coming weeks, we're supposed to have I'm supposed to have Dave Lombardi on the channel. Mike Silver is going to be coming on the channel. I'm going to be reaching out to the Cobra and Cam Inman coming on the channel. So hopefully an awful lot of good stuff is coming up right here on Damon Bruce Plus in the coming weeks as we get closer to football season. It was great to do a post game. I know you and I are looking forward to doing some post games together as the year moves along, man. But let's pop into some supers right here because I got to get rolling. I got to make sure my mom and didn't get lost going to McDonald's.
We got the one super here from Mike Baker. He says, I would love it if you guys take this show and the next few shows and review them at the end of the season and see how you did. That would be some awesome content.
Who was right? Who was wrong?
I'm not sure if that would be great content. August 13th, I said the 49ers should not hand Aiyuk to the Steelers. Damon said they should get the contract done. Okay, I don't know. It'd be interesting to see how it looks in several months.
You were wrong, Larry. You're not a football guy.
Yeah, we got this one. Mario says, Larry has the best insights. He's always there watching the Niners closely. We got this one. somebody asked this one about Shanahan. I said that Shanahan would be very popular with the fans, and he's like, I don't know, man. Take a poll question. I think most reasonable 49er fans look at Kyle Shanahan and say, you know what? The Niners have one of the best coaches in pro football. I think the vast majority. I don't know what I know there's a undercurrent of Shanahan's an idiot, but I just think that's a loud minority. I think the majority. I think it would be at least 70-30 in favor
Kyle
of Shanahan if you ask Niner fans about it in a poll question.
Kyle Shanahan is the third greatest coach in this franchise's history, and the other two guys are Hall of Famers. So it's a pretty good place to be. The only incomplete, the only missing ingredient of Kyle Shanahan's career with the 49ers is a Super Bowl trophy. And in my entire life of evaluating job performances, it seems like a lot of 49ers fans, the point that they make is he comes close to winning a Super Bowl, but he hasn't done it, so I'm ready to walk away. In what other business, in what other industry are you this close from accomplishing your goal and you want to move on from the guy who's this close to doing it?
College football, maybe. I don't know. It seems like they've run guys out in college football.
It's
who were pretty close.
Sports. It's a lack of patience. It's a demand of immediacy.
Who was the guy who won the national championship and got fired? Was it hoops, college hoops recently, or college football? Well, we know Hardball's out, and he just won the national championship, and now he's under investigation, or now he's been penalized. But Marv Levy, somebody said Marv Levy. Yeah,
Marv Levy is nothing short of one of the greatest coaches ever.
Yeah, you don't get forever to win, though. You don't get forever. Shanahan's got to get it done at some point. And when he does, it will be. I think there'll be more to follow. I think it's going to be. I think Shanahan's career. I think we've already seen this career. It's called Andy Reid's career. He was in Philly. He was a great coach. They went 13 years. They didn't win. They chased him out. He went to Kansas City. He found a quarterback. Now he's won 3, and he probably is going to win more. I think when Shanahan gets that first one out of the way, there's probably another one coming. I think he's
before UConn moved on from Kevin Ollie.
Yeah, maybe that's the guy I'm thinking of.
Is that who you're thinking of?
Or Drew and did Baylor win, or did Baylor just go to the Final Four and get rid of? No, they still have Drew, don't they?
Yeah,
they have Drew as the head coach. I forget who it was, but somebody dumped their head coach, and they just were in the national championship. I don't know. It's eluding me. Sean Turner says, what's worse than watching a preseason game? Watching a preseason game 3 times. You're a beast, Larry. Thank you. Yeah, no, seriously. Yeah, it's the third. And when you get to that third time, you're like, oh my God, what the hell am I doing? All right, that's going to do it for us. Check out Damon with Cyrus coming up here in 20 minutes. I'm going to go hit the gym. I'm going to do some lifting today. And then practice is not until 2. So I'm going to go lift for about an hour, and then I'm going to go take a quick shower, head down to camp. I'm going to head down to camp. I'll be there at 2. Camp starts at 2. I'll be streaming later tonight after practice. Should we let everyone know we will be doing Wake Up After Dark on Wednesday, about 9 p.m. Wednesday, Wake Up After Dark? Yeah, Wednesday, because the Niners are early on Wednesday. We've missed a couple of wake ups because of camp. So we decided, you know what, we'll do it at night. So Wednesday night we will do wake up. We're not sure about Friday yet because I'm not sure if I want to commit to Friday night at 9 o'clock because that's I may have something going on. But by the way, Kevin and I will not be going to Southern California because the Niners will not be traveling there. We did get our money back, which was great. So we will not be going to Southern California. Kev's girlfriend not happy that we will not be coming down there. Because she was hoping to see Kev, but you know what? She's gonna have to wait. She's gonna have to wait for Kev. Look, it sucks that joint practice got canceled. It really does. Shanahan, I know. I wanted to see it. Those are important practices for Kyle, and just another element of bad vibe summer. It's time to change the vibes. Larry, thank you very much. Always a pleasure, man. Like and subscribe to those who haven't, and we appreciate you watching. Cheers. Have a great day, everybody. Get out there.
write a fucking name in an envelope and let's just see what happens in the future.